Thank you to the four of you. Now we're going to look at the main challenges for the marine insurance and global shipping industry with Lars LANGE. Lars LANGE is Secretary General of the IUMI, the International Union of Maritime Insurance. He's going to speak in English. So if you need translation, don't hesitate to use a headset that you've been given.
Welcome stage. Yeah, you have the microphone, you have the beeper, and you rather come in the light. I'll leave you.
Good. Floor is mine. Thank you very much, Cecile. And good morning, everybody. Sorry as for Uwe that I can't address you this morning in French, so I had some school French, but to be honest, if I would address you here in French, you wouldn't understand a word because it would be so loud laughing here in the room that you can't understand what I'm talking. And this is why I stick to my English, so I apologize in advance to that. I cannot tell you how great it is to stand again in front of such a great audience, and I'm really, really pleased that I'm here and that we are able to gather again, at least for this point of time, but I'm an optimist that we are able to gather again. So as some of you may be aware, IUMI was also holding its events online the last few years, so we had very successful online conferences, which work well, don't get me wrong, they work well for forwarding information, but these unprovable things like networking, all these in-between information that you get, this is only possible in these in-person events. And so far, it's really good that we are back in the room, back on the stage. So let's go for a great event. So next 30 minutes, IUMI main challenges of the marine insurance industry. Well, there are a few. I decided for a few because it's only 30 minutes. What I left out this time is cyber, although this is very, very close, very high up on our agenda, as you can imagine. Maybe just a few words from the IUMI perspective. So that was really a great panel. I loved what was said here on the panel. For us as an international insurance stakeholder, as your international representation. So what we are currently working on is, of course, at IMO, we were very much involved when this resolution came up, which is requiring in the meantime that cybersecurity is part of your safety management system. It is part of the ISM audit in the meantime, so that is already serious. We were involved on that. The overall perception is that IMO tends to be rather slow by purpose on regulating cyber because IMO is aware that they are a slow-moving entity with 170 flag states, and they wouldn't simply be quick enough for detailed regulation. This is why they very much leave it with the markets, and this is beyond us guys, of course, and trust that markets find solution for that and try just to deliver a framework as this resolution. So this is one. What we do as well is that we team up very much with international ship owner organizations. You may have heard of the so-called BIMCO guideline, which is drafted by a bunch of organizations. Beyond others, IUMI was one of the co-authors. And that is called BIMCO guideline for ship owners about cybersecurity on board vessels of ships. So this is a regularly updated, very hands-on guideline for the bridge, for the vessel. Didier mentioned that, I think it was Didier. There are very odd incidents, 90% or 80% is very odd incidents. It's phishing, it's spam, and that can all be avoided, and then already you saved something. And the third, what we do is that we are very much involved with classification societies. So the umbrella organization, AJAX, International Association of Classification Societies, has worked very intensively together with industry on unified requirements, which is also a framework which are binding for all classification societies being members, Bureau Veritas, for example. And this ensures for the future that you also from class not only get rules on the stability of hull, machinery, and so on, but also on cyber, on setup of your IT and OT on board. And that is for the future also very important. So this is a few parts which we can deliver as IUMI, as your international organization. I haven't mentioned this today, but I thought it's maybe quite appropriate to say at least a few words on that. So that is my agenda for today. Only 30 minutes, 30 seconds on IUMI as such, if somebody of you wouldn't have been too much in touch with IUMI already. We're an organization of organizations, of associations. So we have an umbrella organization. We have 44 national insurance associations as our members. In France, we have one member, one association, and this is FFA, Fédération Française des Assurances. And this is what makes IUMI so strong, that we have a worldwide network of experts contributing to IUMI. So this is what we always say. IUMI is not somewhere a head office of 3 people in Hamburg. IUMI is exactly you guys here, and here are so many involved in IUMI, as I know, in the committees and elsewhere. So this is our strength. Apart from that, we have affiliates, which are shown here. I mentioned already a few, so this is our day work, that we work with these guys. We have professional partners, which is great. That is industry partners. And we have 3 from France, JLB Expertise, CL Survey, and Meet Risk, with whom we really work together. So this is not advertising, this is a working relation. This is only the French ones. I see that our friends from Belgium, from DP Survey are also in the room today. That is another IPP. And then we work in technical committees. I mentioned already the International Maritime Organization. This is one of our very important playing fields. So I will focus today on 3 main challenges, as the title says, a bit on war and sanctions in the beginning, because this is very timely and keeps us quite busy currently. Then on ESG, sustainability, that's an important one, although not as tangible, of course, as the safety issues. And then a bit on safety, which will tie quite neatly in what Uwe already said this morning, and a bit about supply chain disruptions. So war in Ukraine, sanctions against Russia. Where should one start with that one? So that is a very comprehensive one. What we did as IUMI, that goes without saying, is we have one overarching statement on our homepage where we state very clearly, also for us as an insurance industry, this is not about claims. This is about a dilemma in the region. This is about people suffering. This is also about seafarers suffering. We have still more than 80 vessels caught in the region, not all still crewed, of course, but nevertheless, there is a lot of seafarer destiny behind that. And we say this very clearly, that is an aggression by Russia, that is a war, nothing else. There is no incident, there is no conflict. This is an aggressive act of Russia, and this is a war. So this is on our homepage. We try to inform as good as possible via various means. There was a podcast in March already. We had a very good webinar, which is stored on our homepage. Frédéric Denèvle here from Garex was one of the stakeholders in May, which you should have a look at. If not done yet, we issue articles in the IUMI. It's a moving target. It moves very quickly, but we try to get our membership as good as possible updated. But for us as IUMI, it is very clearly a lobbying issue, and lobbying does always mean explaining. So, for example, last week we have the G7 summit in my home country this week, or exactly today, and there will also be discussions again on the oil sanctions, and concretely on connecting the oil sanctions to a concrete price. This was this proposal by the US late last week, and this is something where we are able, on your behalf, to talk to the stakeholders in advance. So we had very long and in-depth calls with the Commission, for example, as one of the key stakeholders last week, where we are able to explain what would this mean for insurance companies. Are we able to deal with that as insurance companies? So my personal opinion is we are not. How should that work in practice? If you would say you are allowed to insure up to a certain price, then it's sanctioned, or other way around. I have not even understood it correctly what the reason behind is. Other way around. So when would you allocate, for example, the price? Would this, at the port where the journey starts, would that be a certain point of time where a claim comes into the play? Or would that be when you deliver your cargo? So that is very touchy. So our recommendation was be rather careful with that. It wouldn't necessarily work. So this is something that we explain very much in the background, what is possible for insurers, what shouldn't be done. It is very easily said. So what we reiterate, not only with regard to Ukraine, we did also with regard to Iran, is keep it readable, keep it in a form that we comply with that we are able to adapt our business accordingly. As we all know, alone for Ukraine, and this is old regulation on the EU side from 2014, but nevertheless we had 6 packages since February demanding the sanctions, and that is not easy on a company level, of course, if not to say nearly impossible to comply with that. So this is something where we talk very much to the regulators and try to avoid the worst, so to say. It is very political processes. They listen to us, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, it is very target-driven, and to push it as hard as possible, that is a clear demand. This is clearly seeable. And what we say overall, of course, we fully go aligned, we try to comply, but please make it in a way that we are able to. So that, very briefly, I do not touch on war insurance here because time is short, but that is another very important topic, of course. Could also be an opportunity, of course, for the future, because this comes a bit more in the focus again, what we as an industry are able to deliver when it comes to war insurance and providing certainty to your business. So a few slides on environmental, social governance, sustainability, which is on an IUMI level currently one of our top priorities, I must say. We started that in 2019 with a member survey, even because we were a bit unsure, is this really something which our members expect us to dive into? And the result was very clear, more than 90%, that yes, absolutely, we do the same. We have currently a working group on that, try to steer this transparently and long-term driven, and do a number of things. So that is crucial. What we said, it is still very much, at least for certain regions, about awareness rising. So what is ESG about? Why is this a topic for us guys? And create a kind of a level playing field. To keep it out of the business, that we have a level playing field, that we have a common understanding that this is something which we simply have to include in our business for the future. At the same time, we said what we should avoid by all means is this one should talking. One should do this, one should do that. We should make very clear this is not about doing good. This is crucial for our business. This is unavoidable in various aspects, and in so far embark as early as possible. So this is one of our standard slides here. Very quickly, this is 3 very concrete impacts on our business. So climate change does already happen, and we do already have the claims, of course. So we have rising sea levels, we have completely different nat cat patterns in the meantime. Look at statistics when we had the major nat cats in the last 100 years, and you will see 8 or 9 out of 10 were in the last 10 or 20 years. So this is visible. It is already an issue, whatever we do. And so far, we should have a keen interest to overcome the situation, of course. Second is asset change. So we talked already about decarbonization of shipping this morning. This implicates also safety issues, of course. This is something which is relevant for our business. If you take offshore, the classic upstream offshore industry, which we insure, shifts very much, of course, to renewables, which is exciting, which is also business opportunities. And if you take the last one, sustainability of clients and industries, this is a bit more societally related. It is related to your stakeholders, to your shareholders, to the next generation of employees, of course, as well, and also to the existing one. What are we prepared to ensure as a company? So are we still in coal? Are we still in nuclear power whatsoever? Cigarettes, alcohol, whatsoever. So that is a company decision, of course, but nevertheless, this is also something where you have, whether you like it or not, a dialogue in your company, and in so far should have an opinion. So what do we do? I mentioned this already, build awareness, networking. I mentioned here a few entities which we very concretely as IUMI work together. I come back to 2 of them very quickly. And I mention also a number of lobbying issues which are on our agenda, where you also see that there is a relevance for our business. Alternative fuels, Arctic sailing in the polar region, illegal fishing, IUU fishing, ship recycling, seafarer well-being, or very recently, marine plastic litter. So this is one here, one of the two I wanted to mention, and that is very concrete. And this is something where companies can sign into. More than 230 have already signed as members of the Principles for Sustainable Insurance. And this is something which we support very much as IUMI, as an organization, and promote as well. This is a self-commitment which is designed by the United Nations Environmental Programme. Financial initiative sounds cute, but is a massive organization, and they develop these principles for sustainable insurance. This is 4 principles, as here stated on this slide, where you commit as a company to make this basis of your business, to take this up with your clients, teamwork, and to deliver solutions. So take this home. If you don't know that, have a glance. They have an excellent homepage. That is certainly something which is worth to have a look up. And the second, this is very new, and I won't go into detail here because we have another presentation by Elise Lawson this afternoon, to which I very much look forward, on the Poseidon Principles for marine insurance, where IUMI is a supporting organization. And this is really very concrete, a project where you are able to, in a first step, assess the carbon footprint of your hull portfolio and take according business decisions, if you like, at least place the carbon footprint of your portfolio against certain trajectories which are directed to certain climate warmth scenarios. We'll get this in detail this afternoon, but this is an excellent opportunity to make it very concrete and as a company to get a commitment for the emission portfolio of your hull business. So that is really a wonderful one. So very quickly, time is so short, on safety and shipping. This slide here, this fits excellently in what Uwe Schieder told us this morning. So Uwe showed you wonderfully what we came up with at IUMI, our loss prevention committee, Pascal Dubois and Uwe heading it over the last few years on container vessel fires. So it's nice to know that, and the second step, of course, is to implement this in practice. And Uwe mentioned that we have an initiative on that at the International Maritime Organization in London, and this was last year in the pandemic accepted as a so-called new output, means it is on the agenda of the International Maritime Organization. There is a work plan currently underway. It is in their committees. Large expert groups work on that. But IMO, as I already mentioned, is a very slow-moving entity, whether you like it or not. It is very duly, and it is for good reason, of course, because at the end of the day, every new-built vessel has to comply with this regulation. But we will have, in 2028, when this process is stopped, so we usually say it takes you 8 years to get something implemented at IMO. 1st January of 2028 is the agreed implementation date. Then we will have very concrete amendments in the SOLAS agreement, binding for every new-built container vessel on better detection of container fires, better fire segregation, better firefighting means on board and in the hatches, and better facilities for the crew to address that. So that will all happen, as by Uwe said this morning. And this is really a success for us as an organization. We were as an NGO, we are an NGO at IMO, we are entitled to speak, entitled to issue papers, but not to apply for new outputs. This is solely for flag states. So we did this together at that first stage with Germany and Bahamas, but it's really a large success that we got that on board. So this is my second example here on safety on shipping, also very timely, containers lost at sea. That is a bit more difficult to address since you have so many root causes for this. Here in the second bullet point I mentioned a few. And you may have seen the excellent discussion paper which we have on our homepage, which was designed by our loss prevention committees. So we take this as a work plan and address this step by step. What we do already have on the IMO agenda is one, again, new output on the work agenda on tracking and tracing of lost containers, which we are very actively involved in. But we are, for example, also talking very tightly with classification societies currently about approval of lashing equipment, for example, which is crucial. And there's some kind of competition, in our view, in approving lashing equipment by the classification societies. And this is where we also would like to have class having some harmonized rules, unified interpretation. So that is also underway. We are involved in a project, I know the time, yeah, I'll be as quick as possible, where we are also involved in a project which is called Top Tier, and it is still about, for example, weight of containers. There is already IMO regulation into place alone. It is a problem to implement this in practice. So these are a few other safety issues which we are currently very actively involved in. The Lloyd's Salvage and Arbitration branch is about to be closed in London. Some of you may know we try to avoid this. Autonomous shipping, the rule setting is underway. We are part of the IMO groups on that. That will be a real game changer. Places of refuge, the guidelines, not in my backyard. The problem for people, ships in distress to get a harbor is something very prominent on our agenda. Same for the limitation of liabilities, where some rules are currently changed, non-IG insurers, wrong certificates for non-IG insurers. So this is something which we work on. That was very much in a nutshell. If you're interested in our lobby work, we have this policy agenda very regularly updated on our homepage, where you get a perfect overview what is on our agenda. We formally decide on an executive committee level on new topics for the policy agenda, what's going on this topic, what is IUMI's position, what are our next steps. As it behaves for a lobbying organization, very transparent, and we do know that IMO and other regulators, the Commission and also ship owners look into this document, work on that. So my very last one here is on supply chain directions, and not surprisingly, I have no solution for that yet, but that is an observation which we have, which our members have, and which we discuss very much, I must say, currently. What the solution for that is. A number of things to be addressed. Bottlenecks in the supply chain, the ever given is the elephant in the room, of course. Just-in-time production still necessary, just in case maybe. What about trade volume as such? Increasing size of the vessels. Cyber should have been added here, is another supply chain potential disruption, of course. We see the port congestions currently, partly lack of equipment, partly lack of personnel, but also due to the pandemic, accumulation of risk and impact of climate change again. So this is something which needs a bit of a swarm intelligence. We can't solve this as insurers, of course, but we have to address this with our partners and have to come up with reasonable solutions to at least mitigate this, to have plans in place to avoid situations as currently seen. So very quickly, at the end, this is my usual toolbox that you get more than only my presentation here, connect to IUMI. So what can I do, if not already done, to get on a daily business in touch with IUMI? Our annual statistics, hopefully well known in the room, are online. This is always in September. The new ones are to come at our September conference in Chicago. So this is definitely worth a look. It's thousands of pages of information for you guys. And the new spring statistics with macroeconomic data are only online for 2 or 3 weeks with our partners, Clarkson Research, IHS, and Lloyd's List Intelligence. So that is really value for money. Our stats report, certainly known to some of you, that is also something for your management. This is something where you can provide your board with, where you get on 35 pages, a perfect overview about the current state of the market, so to say. That is a project which we involved in where we published 3 years ago first time. We work on that, frankly spoken, for 10 years. But this is really a great one. This is our major claims database, where we collect claims information, major claims above $250,000 for cargo and for hull, and puts this together with certain information, puts this together on an international level. We have already more than 9,000 claims at hand. We have more than 25 countries participating, French beyond them. Thank you very much for that. And this is something, once improved more, which really will help us to learn about claims patterns internationally. What is happening, where, when, for what reason, with what impact. So that is really something which you can use in your daily underwriting. IUMI education, very important. I can't dive into detail, but we have webinars. You're certainly aware. We do also have tutorials, which are great, I must say, for the next generation. We cooperate with the World Maritime University in Malmö. We have a postgraduate. We have study groups, and we are currently developing in-class courses that will be rolled out during our conference in September in Chicago, and that shall start spring next year. We will have this simultaneously, one course most likely in London spring next year, but this will be announced, and one in Asia at the same time. Could be Hong Kong, Singapore, or Shanghai. We haven't decided yet. And that is also marvelous, not only for the knowledge, but also for the networks, of course, at an early stage of your career. Our newsletter, known to all of you, the June issue is out. So if you're bored at your desk, I guess you're not, but there is an alternative. And apart from that, lots of things. So we have podcasts, we have blogs, we're on social media. You are able to connect with us on a daily basis. And last but not least, as you guys here, we'll be back on the stage in September. Our annual conference will only be in person. We won't be hybrid by purpose. And we are scheduled for September 18th to 21st, and we'll be in Chicago this year. We'll be back to the States. Registration is open, iumi2022.com. So that was very much in a nutshell. Thank you very much. But I hope and trust we do still have time for one or two questions.
Exactly. Just in time. I was a little anxious, but you were perfect. Is there a question from the audience? Est-ce que vous avez une question pour Lars LANGE? Nous avons 2 minutes d'avance. Alors, j'avoue que j'en avais une, moi, sur l'inflation.
I have a question on inflation.
You see coming back, is it a subject for the marine insurers?
Yeah, definitely yes. Yeah. So time will tell what the impact will be. I would guess first instance it will be a business impact. No? So what we have to expect, of course, is we can't compensate inflation immediately in our premium rates, of course. So there will be a decrease of premium quality. So that's rather sure. But nevertheless, on the claims side, of course, we will immediately have the impact of the inflation, right? So when you repair a vessel, steel costs go up, labor costs go up, and so on. So this is something which will deteriorate the premium quality, as said. So that is one impact. But we do also foresee, of course, that it will impact trade behaviors and maybe also the behavior with insurance. So this is certainly something which we will have to monitor. There is no solution yet. But as for other sectors, I think one shouldn't underestimate what the inflation will do for our business.
Something to look carefully.
No, absolutely.
Look at carefully. Une toute petite question, une dernière.
Any other questions before lunch? Well then, Lars, thank you very much.